Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to 999. We're back here again in the study, which it seems an interesting place. We pretty much solved all the puzzles, I think. We did find an empty coffin. Seven told us the extended version of the story that he told us in the first ending about how he got on this boat and he heard some children's voices. This time, he remembers the whole thing. He gets through the whole thing. He helps save the kids. They try to get away. One of the kids, Akane, interestingly enough, goes missing. We try to go back and save her. She ends up burning in the incinerator. Not the best story, but we did find... Oh, that is a pipe. We don't need to talk about the pipes. Pipes are scary. We did find the 0 card, and I'm lazy, so I'm not going to add it down there, in case you're wondering. Because it's just it's the only thing we have, and I'm pretty sure we all know exactly what needs to be done with that card. If I can find the door. There it is, okay. Alright, let's just swipe this card. Oh, and another little interesting bit of information is that Santa is actually Oi Kurishiki. What should ring a bell, considering that Akane Kurishiki, that's her brother, and apparently she's dead. See a small contradiction there, but maybe it'll get sorted out later, I don't know. But Junpei, look! It's unlocked! Yeah! Now we can go back to the library. Hurry up, Junpei, we don't have time. Let's go! Alright, indeed, let's go. Alright, let's go. Now, of course, we have the key card, I believe, or no, it was a key to let us get in the last door. I think that leads to the incinerator, but I don't know. But obviously we need to get in, we need to get through there. The door they opened and stumbled into the library, or the door opened, they stumbled in the library. The shaking had stopped, but they knew the danger hadn't passed. They ran across the hallway, straight for the large metal door. Now wait, let me think, I just thought of something. So, at one point, I think, you remember how Zero said I've lost in the safe ending that we got? He says, you know, he's like, you haven't lost, I've lost. Now I think that means that Ace got away and he didn't want Ace to get away. Maybe that's what it meant, since Snake, or not Snake, I keep mixing their names up. Since Santa wanted to, I guess wanted to get revenge. Next to the door was a Uranus card reader. They slid the keycard through, and the door rumbled open. Out of the library and into the hallway they ran. I'm getting really excited. At the end of the hallway was a door. Junpei reached into his pocket to pull out the key as he ran towards it. The key put into the lock was the Neptune key. He turned it. The lock clicked. As one, they shoved the door open and poured through it. And this does look like the incinerator. It all ends at the same place, and that's how they were able to, even though they went through the other 9 door last time, they were still able to get to the incinerator. In front of them was another great metal door. Above it was a metal plaque. It read, Incinerator. So interesting enough, you know, that just came up in our story recently. I wonder if anyone's going to say anything different this time. So, this is the incinerator. This is the first time I've seen it from this side, but yeah, I think so. Then there ought to be a lever near the door, and that's how Snake knew about the lever. Yeah, right here. Junpei ran up to it. Pull that, and the door should open. Got it. As he spoke, he pulled the lever. And the motor in the door groaned as it slowly ground open. There was no time to waste. As soon as the door had opened for enough to admit them, all 4 dashed through. About the same thing. Dart dash. Then suddenly, before them, were the 4 they parted from earlier. So why are they waiting here, I wonder? That doesn't make sense to me. Why didn't they go ahead? Ace and Lotus stood in front of the number 9 door. Oh, Santa was curled into a ball against the wall of the incinerator holding his stomach. Did Ace give him a good punch? And then there was June. Oh, uh-oh. She sat slumped against the wall, exhausted. What had happened? Junpei ran towards June. He skidded to a stop in front of her and knelt down. What's wrong? Are you okay? Her face was pale and her lips dry. When she spoke, he could barely hear her. Junpei, you came to get me. Of course I did. I made a promise. I'm so glad you're here. So glad. Oh gosh, it sounds like a lot of the other endings we've had. She mumbled the same words over and over, weakly. Junpei could feel his heart breaking. Hey, what happened to you? I'm fine. I just fainted. I wasn't feeling very good. I'm feeling a lot better now, though. Are you sure? Yes. I just need to rest a little longer. I'm sure I'll be fine. You shouldn't worry about me. She was looking toward Santa. Junpei turned to look as well. Santa grimaced, his face contorted in pain. Seven grabbed him by the collar and roared at him. Hey, where is it? Where's the gun? Did you hide it somewhere? Despite himself, a grunt of pain escaped Santa's lips as Seven shook him. I don't have it. I got sucker punched and they took the gun. What? Who took it? What? Isn't that obvious? It was Ace, wasn't it? I took the gun. This is like the exact same situation. Ace. He did indeed have the revolver in his hand. It was pressed against Lotus's temple. Ace had her pinned to him with the other arm, and she was shaking visibly. Her fiery attitude was gone, replaced by fear. She didn't dare speak. There was sweat on her forehead, and when her eyes weren't flicking up to the gun pressed against her, they seemed desperately to want to say something. Just, what do you think you're doing, Ace? Or maybe I ought to say, Gintaro Hongu, CEO of Credo Pharmaceutical. Seven's deep baritone rumble shook the walls. Ace sneered. You have me at a disadvantage, and I don't like that. You know me, but I don't know you. Do you have any idea how much I've suffered? Oh, because he doesn't recognize his face, so that's why he wasn't able to figure... I was kind of curious what happened to Ace to make him unable to realize who all these people were, but I guess it does make sense now that he wouldn't have recognized his face. Okay, I get it now. Can you even begin to understand my pain? The pain in prosopagnosia, right? Junpei's voice was casual. Or, at least, it was trying to be. Another irritating insect. And how do you know that? Junpei couldn't say, he just knew. Another unexplainable mystery. No matter. If you don't want to answer, it makes no difference to me. This is a waste of time anyway. It's time for me to go. Behind Ace, Junpei could see the red. It was placed in the small indentation on the wall. Quickly, Ace placed his hand on the scanner. It beeped, and he forced Lotus's hand onto it as well. Then, at last, he reached into the pocket of his jacket. He pulled something out and pressed it against the panel. Yeah, it was the number 9 bracelet. The third asterisk appeared on the red. The thing he had used for the final verification was the bracelet with the number 9. As we kind of guessed, it had belonged to the first man to die. Kabuta. 1 plus 8 plus 9 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. There you go. I believe I've won this game. His smirk made Junpei's blood boil. I've had quite a time playing with you. I must thank Zero, I suppose. Wait. Something about the way he'd spoken. Did Ace not know who Zero was? Junpei's eyes flicked towards Santa. He hadn't moved since they'd entered the room. Santa was still holding his stomach and groaning as if in immense pain. Junpei wasn't sure if it was real pain, but he wasn't sure it wasn't either. What did Santa have up his sleeve this time? You'd think if he was actually Zero, which we're assuming he is at this point, just because there's so much evidence for it, you'd think that if he was actually Zero, he'd have some sort of backup plan for this. Like, that just kind of seems like him. At any rate, this game ends now. Well, actually, that doesn't actually make sense, because maybe he was so confident in his plans that he didn't plan for something like this to happen. I will escape, and the rest of you will have a slightly less pleasant ending. Yeah, get it? He knows about the endings. I suggest you enjoy your final moments. Goodbye. Wait! Ace, of course, paid no heed to Seven's request, and laid hold of the lever on the red. With a sickening sense of finality, he pulled it. Oh. Wait. Was that why Ace never bothered to go through the door last time? Now that's interesting. What? Why isn't it opening? Lotus tried to take advantage of Ace's confusion and managed to twist herself out of his grasp, but... At the last second, he grabbed hold of her wrist and shoved it onto the red. He waved the number 9 bracelet over the red and then his own bracelet as well. He pulled the lever a second time. Now that's something that hasn't happened up until now. No! What is this? Why? The digital root should be 9. It has to be 9. Then why isn't it opening? Ace's fury and confusion had overridden all other thoughts. I suppose if you had been, banking on this thing to work the whole time and it didn't work, you're kind of in a bad situation. He had set down the revolver. It was just below the red. Seven chose that moment to act. He moved far faster than a man of his bulk should have been able to, and he launched that bulk straight at Ace. Ooh, that sounded painful. It was over before they knew it. In the blink of an eye, Ace was on the floor. He rolled onto his side, groaning in pain. Lotus ran straight for Junpei. She darted around behind him and stuck her head out, making sure to keep Junpei between herself and Ace. That was close. Too close. Thank you, Seven. Don't mention it. Seven stood over Ace, his breathing slow and heavy. Just one punch ain't enough for this piece of crap. After what he did 9 years ago, I ought to rip him to pieces. But if a suspect can't talk, they ain't much good. Once he's locked up in a cell, we're gonna have a little chat. And by chat, I mean with my fist. 9 years ago? Ah, then you must be... Yeah, you finally figured it out. Ace planted his hands on the floor and shook his head. Junpei walked towards him. He stopped and looked down at Ace with pity on his face. Ace, you killed Kabuta, Nijisaki, and Mushishido, didn't you? Wait, Nijisaki? He peered at Junpei, genuinely confused. Oh, right. You don't know yet. Alright, we'll just go through them in order then. Let's start off with Kabuta. You talked to Kabuta and managed to convince him to go into door 5 alone. You killed him without making it look like you killed him. The way I figure it, you had 4 motives. 1. In the Nonary game, the number 9 was dangerous. Whoever had the number 9 bracelet could join whatever team they wanted. You could add 9 to any number, and the digital root wouldn't change. And there's some examples for you. In other words, number 9 could do whatever they wanted. Ace had wanted to remove that threat as soon as possible. 2. Ace also wanted the number 9 bracelet himself, so that he could make use of its power. In fact, he later made use of it in the murder of Nijisaki. 3. Even if his number had been different, Kabuta presented a problem for Ace. Kabuta had known Ace's past. He knew what had happened 9 years before. Before he had told anyone, Ace had to silence him. 4. But last, and perhaps most disturbing, Ace had used Kabuta as a test. He wanted to know how serious this honorary game was. Was it truly life or death, or simply a harmless prank? He convinced Kabuto to break the rules so that he might see what happened. And, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so he says, hey, there's been a change in the rules, and Kabuto would know immediately how it had been changed because he was familiar with the rules from before. Okay, that was why you killed Kabuto, but he was only the first. Next was Nijisaki. While everyone is off looking for the missing part for the red, you ran into Nijisaki near the big hospital room. However, because of your prosopagnosia, you didn't realize he was Nijisaki. Chiefly because, when you met him, he was dressed like Snake. That was why you thought Nijisaki was Snake. Still, the bigger question, how did that happen? How did he get dressed up as Snake? I'm guessing maybe Santa did something along the lines. No, that's not... That was Nijisaki? Why? How did... I'll get to that. Anyway, you thought he was Snake. Snake was one of the kids in your experiment 9 years ago. You remembered him because he was the blind kid. But his presence made you think. Snake was one of my subjects 9 years ago. He probably hates me. I would wager yes. Especially when you kill his sister. But if that's true, why isn't he saying anything? Is he keeping quiet because he can't see? Or perhaps he's working with Zero to get revenge on me. Whatever the reason, anyone who knows my past is a threat. Before he tries anything, I need to get rid of him. That was when you decided you had to kill him. The murder weapon was Kabuto's bracelet. You just waved it over the red. Verified your own number, and then grabbed Nijisaki's arm and forced it over the scanner panel. Then, when the door opened, you kicked him in. 9 seconds later, the door closed. And the rest is history. And poor Nijisaki was dead. Then you mean to say Snake is still alive? Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm as good as new. Thank you for killing the wrong man, but I can't say I like knowing that you wanted me dead. Although, to be honest, even if you hadn't tried to kill me, I would still hate you very much. Heh. Well, I wouldn't blame you. Ace's self-derision was frustrating. But Junpei kept his emotions in check and continued. Last but not least, let's talk about Mushashido's death. When Clover and I were investigating the chart room, you came over to talk to me. Do you remember what you said? Oh, a pocket watch. Might I take a look at it? I handed you the pocket watch and you left the room. Ace had been in charge of the Nonary project. He would, of course, have known the solution to every puzzle. It followed, then, that he knew how to get out of the wheelhouse. All Ace had to do was place the pocket watch in the indentation on the door to unlock it. With the door open, he was able to enter the captain's quarters. And that's why he wanted to go in door 1, I bet. Mushashido was there. Next to him was an axe that fairly begged Ace to kill Mushashido with it. He picked up the axe and swung it, burying the blade deep in the other man's chest. So he did this... When did he do this? Because weren't we with him the whole time? Maybe he went off ahead for a little bit. One blow was all it took. Afterwards, Ace returned to the chart room as though nothing had happened. There was something I wanted to speak with you about, Junpei. Could you come with me for a moment? Oh, so did he solve the puzzle and then kill him and then unsolve it? Okay. With no reason not to, Junpei had followed Ace to the wheelhouse. When they reached the wheelhouse, Ace slipped his hand into Junpei's vest. He pulled out a piece of paper, the piece of paper Junpei had used to cheat during the vote. But it wasn't the piece of paper that Ace was after. His true purpose had been to slip the pocket watch into Junpei's pocket. Oh. It wasn't a very good plan. It had far too many flaws, and the wrong word of discovery could have easily have toppled it. What had made Ace so desperate? That was the only thing Junpei hadn't been able to figure out. Mushashido's murder is the only one I don't understand. You obviously did it, but why? Because of this. Slowly, H reached down and pulled something out of his pocket. Another gun! Just kidding. It was a folded piece of paper. Junpei took it and opened it. This is what it said. Number 1. There are 2 ways you might survive this ordeal. The first is to win the Nonary game. The second is for you to confess your sins of 9 years past. I prepared a camera in the captain's quarters. The images captured by that camera will be streamed through a satellite and distributed across the world. Simply look into the camera and repent. So that's what that camera in there was for. Once you've confessed everything, I will release you from the ship. To make your confession more credible, I've left you a witness in the captain's quarters. Perhaps he will confess with you. The decision is yours. Do as you please. And that's from Zero. And of course he decided to kill him and not do what he's supposed to do with the camera. When I woke in that room on D-Deck, I found that in my pocket. That was why I chose door 1 when we voted. If I went through that door, I knew I could get to the captain's quarters. So what was his purpose of wanting to go through door 6 with us? Was he just trying to avoid suspicion by going through with it? I guess. As you said, I knew how to enter the wheelhouse. My plan was to find the pocket watch before anyone else. If I could, then my alibi would be set. At least, that was the plan. Unfortunately for me, you got to it first. That sleight of hand was the best I could manage on short notice. You meant to kill him from the beginning, then? Mushishido, I mean. I only knew Mushishido was the witness after I reached the captain's quarters. I asked him, and he answered. He seemed groggy. Perhaps he had only just awoken from sedation. I suppose Nijisaki was in much the same state. He seemed confused and disoriented when I encountered him. But yes, you are correct. I intended to kill him from the beginning, even though I didn't know who he was. I proceeded to the captain's quarters in order to remove this so-called witness. Ace had confessed everything. What energy he had left in him was with the truth. What energy he had left him with the truth. And he sagged on his knees. There we go, that's a good way to read English. Although he had confessed, his sins were not forgiven. Junpei felt revulsion for the pathetic man on the floor near his feet. But in amongst the revulsion was a hint of pity. After all, Ace had not been the only person who murdered those 3 men. Junpei spoke quietly. Ace, you figured it out, haven't you? You were being manipulated. Yes. So it would seem. I was little more than a puppet, in many ways. Everywhere I went, everything was already prepared. The Reds in the large hospital room were dismantled. Nijisaki was dressed like Snake. There was an axe in the captain's quarters. Mushishido was delirious from the anesthetic, so he couldn't fight back. Nijisaki as well. In retrospect, I can't understand how I could have fallen into such a simple trap. Well, you fell into it because you thought you were in control. I'm quite ashamed of myself. But yes, this was a trap. It was Zero's trap, and I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I did everything he wanted me to do. Yeah. By manipulating Ace, Zero was able to kill 3 people and keep the blood off his own hands. All of this was revenge for what happened 9 years ago. That's why this Nonary game happened. Am I right, Santa? Junpei looked over at Santa. As Junpei spoke, he stood up, his legs still shaky. Huh? What are you talking about? I don't know any... Ain't no point in trying to play dumb anymore, Santa. Actually, I guess I should call you Oi Kurashiki, huh? Seven's face was sad as he spoke. My memory came back, kid. You're Oi Kurashiki, no doubt about it. Never thought I'd be back in this room, talking to you. But, hey, I guess this is all part of your plan, right? After all, the person who'd planned the Nonary game this time around was Zero. And Zero's you. Heh. Looks like you really do have your memories back, huh? Santa's smile was sarcastic, and... something else. Well, I guess there's no point in hiding it then, huh? Yeah, you got me. I'm Oi Kurashiki. I was one of the kids in the Nonary game 9 years ago. I made it out, so did Snake over there. But there's one thing. No, I guess there's 2 things that you got wrong. Number 1, I ain't Zero. What? Wait, what? Just kidding. Sure, I was helping Zero out, but I'm really more of an assistant. Like a secretary. But an assistant's only an assistant. I didn't come up with all of this. All I did was follow Zero's orders. Then, if you're not Zero, who is? Calm down there, Junpei. Didn't I say 2 things? You made one more mistake. Junpei, you just said, all of this was revenge for what happened 9 years ago. That's why this Nonary game happened. But that's not it. Revenge isn't the only purpose. There's another reason you guys were playing the Nonary game. To save someone. Save someone? Right. You were brought here to help my sister. Isn't she dead? To save Akane. What the heck are you talking about? Akane Kurashiki died 9 years ago in this room. I was there. I saw... Suddenly, Seven froze. His eyes went as wide as dinner plates, and he spun around towards June. Junpei followed his gaze. Where'd she go? She was gone. Where had June been? There was nothing. What the heck? Where is she? Where's Akane Kurashiki? Seven began to mumble to himself, a strange series of words strung together, as if his mind wasn't functioning properly. His face was twisted with effort, as though he were struggling with something they couldn't see. He gritted his teeth and pressed his hands against the side of his head. My head! My head! It feels like it's gonna pop. He groaned and fell to his knees. Seven! What's going on? I don't know. I swear to God, my head feels like it's about to explode. From somewhere far away, they all heard a deep, heavy noise. It sounded like a tremendous wheel slowly beginning to turn. Santa seemed to have entered an almost trance-like state. His words were calm and measured. What was the Nonary project? I'm sure you know already, but I'll tell you one more time. It was a project designed to test a particular phenomenon. And what was that phenomena? For 2 organisms to communicate with one another in the absence of physical contact. The morphogenic field theory. Could human beings use these invisible fields to exchange information? That was what this experiment was conducted to determine. There were 2 separate locations. One was in the Gigantic, and the other was a building in Nevada called Building Q. Building Q had been built to replicate exactly the interior of the Gigantic. The 9 children trapped in Building Q were faced with numerous puzzles, copies identical to the ones of the Gigantic. They were told to send their answers into the morphogenic field set, and transmit them to their brothers and sisters on the Gigantic. The transmitters were put into Building Q, and the receivers were put on the Gigantic. Each sibling pair was supposed to be split up, but there was a mistake. Akane was a transmitter. She should have been in Building Q, however, for some reason she was placed on the Gigantic with the receivers like me. Perhaps she was mistaken for someone who was supposed to be in Group A. Whatever the case, Akane ended up on the Gigantic. I think I've told you enough. You get it, don't you? I'm pretty sure you know what this is going, Junpei. I don't, actually. Where what is going? Don't play dumb. You know things you shouldn't. Things you couldn't. How did you know Ace had prosopagnosia? How did you know why Ace wanted to kill Kabuto, and how Nijisaki was killed? Were you surprised when you found out Ace was Hongu? And what about the coffin Snake was trapped in? How the heck did you open it? Well, that's... The answer to that is easy. He knew because... I knew. I knew? Junpei was receiving information that I sent to him through the morphogenic field set. Who's I? It's simple, really. Who's I? How do I know alternate futures, then? Is this supposed to be like breaking the fourth wall? Imagine a river that splits in two. Like an upside-down Y. The river flows from the top to the bottom, from a single stream into two branches. It only flows in one direction. It can never flow backwards. Information is the same way. It moves from the past to the future, but never flows backwards. That's why people at the river's source, in the past, will never know about those downstream, in the future. But the people downstream will never know about one another either. Information only flows along the path of the river. But I am different. I am? I can manipulate the morphogenic field set to pluck knowledge from the future. I know what happens on either fork of the river, even though the people on either fork know nothing about one another. Now, who am I? I am I, the ninth letter of the alphabet. But I am also 0. No, that's not true. I'm not really 0, not yet. Perhaps you could say I am less than 0. So you're negative? 0 is my future. In 9 years, I will be 0. Wait, what? Where did she go? June. No, Akane. Where did you go? Santa. Why's Clover... Aw. Freeze. What? Oh, that's Ace. I thought Santa was pointing a gun at Santa. Sorry. Santa's got the gun. Guess he picked it up when we weren't watching. Yeah, I figured somebody should have gotten that. That's another one of our mistakes for leaving that gun around. Looks like he's turned the tables on Ace, though. Wonder how he likes having a gun to his head. Get up. Sure isn't about to take that gun off him for a minute, is he? I wouldn't either. Ace isn't putting up any kind of fight. I mean, I don't think I would either, but he just looks drained.